Welcome to another Tern Heads event where we talk about career pathways, employability skills, and how to flourish in your first few years of the creative industry. My name's Sam, and I'm a full-time graphic designer for a London-based agency, and I'm also the founder of Tern Heads. And I'm joined today by freelance graphic designer and life coach, Oliver Jones. And we're here to talk about how to deal with rejection and imposter syndrome in the creative industry. So if you find our content helpful and you do want to support what we do, then please let your friends know about us and sign up for free at turnheads.com for more resources. This workshop is being recorded and it will be available on turnheads.com, so you can watch it back at your leisure. So without further ado, I will hand over to Ollie to introduce himself and to kick things off.
Great, thanks Sam, thanks for the introduction. Hello everybody, I'm Ollie, and yes, I'm a graphic designer, and I think I graduated, 2000, a bit of a long time ago now, but I've been designing since then. And a little bit about me at university. I had mental health issues, I get straight to the nitty gritty, and had a breakdown and panic attacks, you name it, and had a really tough time, and always kind of felt like I've got through the back door of the creative industry, just because I had to kind of get through all these issues as well as produce work. And friends and family really helped at the time, which was fantastic. And eventually then I got placement work at different agencies in London, got my first junior position, went middleweight, and then I went freelance from there, really. And then I kind of did my traveling thing at my late 20s, purely because when I was younger, there was no way, I was just coping, just being myself with all these issues, that the thought of going away and leaving the country just wasn't a thing to do. So I did that in my late 20s and had all this experience designing. So I was able to freelance in Australia and New Zealand and earn some good money out there, and, spend that diving on the Barrow Reef and shark cage diving and having a great time. So I've been freelancing since. I did go full time for about a year. That didn't quite work out, which is another topic in itself. And then I went freelance again, and lots of agency work. And the last, I suppose, 5 or 4 years time at the moment, it's kind of personal clients that have got in touch with me, and just word of mouth and people contacting me through LinkedIn. So a lot of smaller projects. And now and again, I still catch myself getting into a design agency now and again. So I could show you a little bit of my work, if that's cool.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Just share my screen. Cool. So Apple L. It's always a beaut, that one. This is just a private client that got in touch through the wellness industry. And she's a very strong woman and is a leader of women, as you see. Is to empower women to have great health through movement and conversation. And I put here just some initial thoughts of the logo as she was sort of briefing me, and a few hours after that she briefed me, that I just kind of noted down, and playing with the W of Project Woman. And she had a kind of vision herself, so I kind of incorporated that too, to get to. So she landed on this, which is kind of playing with the O's of Project Woman and having them sort of open up and then spinning around. And then I thought this is quite nice to kind of show somebody dancing, interacting with the logo, and she absolutely loved it. And her groups are very, very inspiring for women, and she was just a great person to work with. Also working with private clients, the budget's not so great, so you kind of get to the point straight away, but it's still lovely to do. This again was a small project. This was literally 2 hours, 30 minutes, as you see here. The client didn't have a lot of budget, but this is just an example of different ideas I came up with. I just went typographic straight away, and it was for children's books that are coming out that are full of mental health and issues like that, talking to children in sort of a a picture book kind of way, to represent the love, peace and magic that lives within all children. And she's just a lovely client to work with, and this is the project that the logo that she chose. And that's just an example of how it can look on different things, which a client loves to see. It kind of sells the project to show the logo in context. This was, breath work. You can see I'm into well-being a lot. This is a breathwork project called Breathing Tree, and it's shamanic breathwork. And my client wanted something to represent the shamanic breathwork and how powerful it is, and the fact that it's very hands-on as well. When a client's doing the breathwork, she kind of puts her hands on the chest and on the belly, which is kind of shown on the next screen just here. So I thought, you kind of like a tree connecting to Mother Earth and the universe, and she loved it. So saying that, also sometimes a client will love a logo and then not necessarily go with it. She went with someone else in the end, but I like to show this because I really like it. This was a logo that I did quite recently. Race Equality Matters. A friend of mine that works for a charity said, he gave me a chance to do it. And there's a week every year now to tackle the subject of race and equality, and it's gathering momentum, and I'm quite proud of it. Actually, it's actually been on BT Sports, as we can see here, the panel talking about when players were taking the knee before a match and things like that. So it's quite nice sometimes, logos that you don't really suspect that will be out there suddenly are, and you're like, oh, I did that. So that's pretty cool. And these are just some other logos that I did within the corporation. This is just a fun and trendy logo I did on my travels in New Zealand. It's a clothing company called Fetch, and these are just different ideas that I did. It's just a 2-day brief. There's an example of how it will look within the shop, and the fascia and bags and stuff like that. Again, just showing it in context with which the client loves. And these are some recent projects that I did for packaging. The Garden of Eva. So I did the logo, and they wanted the jars with the pickles in designed as well. And I just wanted to show that the client's main, I suppose, point with the brief was to show more of the products and less going on the actual jars. So I believe I did that in kind of a fun contemporary way, and the food does the talking. And I like the fact the logo's in white and reversed out, and it's my favorite route, and she chose it, which was good. So that's always a winner, because sometimes clients, they can choose the route that's not so good. This was concept. It didn't go ahead in the end. It was another company, I forget its name, but they were rebranding, and they wanted to know as Cocoa Canopy. And this was one of the final designs that they liked, and just using the holding device as if it was a cocoa seed, and the fact that it grows in tropical environments, and then just making it look very sort of appetizing and stand out from the shelf, and look like a cereal as well, which you can have, sprinkled on your cereal, or have it just as a hot drink, hot chocolate, which is nice. And some other work that I've done in the past. These are some coffee packaging that I did for an Italian brand. And these are some herbal teas. The actual concept was done. What I had to do as a designer was go on a photo shoot and make all the ingredients look lovely. And then I just did a 3D visual of the concepts. And this was some work I did back in the day at M&S, looking at salad bags, and the idea of just having the shape of the leaf as the window, and the rest of the bag is frosted. That was quite nice. That gets me a lot of work, actually. When I get freelance gigs, comments I get, oh, you worked at Marks and Spencer's, we like that concept. So I always keep it in, even if it's old school. Some more herbal tea packaging that I did for Tesco's, I think in 2018, I believe. It was very tricky doing the steam to visualize that. And I actually just went to a visualizer that I was friends with and said, you couldn't just give me some steam, could you, that I could warp in Photoshop? So it's always good to have people in the industry that can help you out. There's some wines that I did at M&S. looking at kind of Pinot Grigios, basic sort of price point to more expensive. And this is the only point that I've found within packaging design is using lots of different fonts on wine labels really works. It doesn't really work in any other instance in packaging, but I like to be proven wrong, but so far that's been the case. That was quite nice to work on. Some chocolates for butlers. This was to be sold in the Dubai airport, so it wanted to be very bling as well as quite contemporary and subtle as well. So I managed to do that, which was nice, and have some nice embossing on the box, and then taking the client through the experience of opening the box as well. And some other butlers packaging for the Irish market and people going to and from the airport in Dublin. And some more chocolate, conscious chocolate. So it was a design that was already there, and I just made it more contemporary and cleaned it up and made the typography looked nice and neat. This is a subject that Sam and I have talked about in the past, of looking at typography and the space in between and stuff that kind of just comes as you work in the industry. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'll just stop sharing now. And yeah, in a kind of nutshell, that's me. And since the lockdowns, especially in leading up to that, I was very much into the wellness industry and working myself, seeing therapists, and then getting into meditation and doing breath work. And I trained as a life coach over the lockdowns, and it's kind of gone more into energy work now as well, so I can hold the space for my clients, coaching them as well as working with them energetically, spiritually as well. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Fantastic, thanks, Ollie. Great. So yeah, I guess that's just hopefully kind of framed it for everybody that so Ollie has obviously the experience kind of coming into the industry, working in the industry over many years, and now kind of reflecting back on that really, and really looking into and dealing with anxiety, imposter syndrome, rejection, all that kind of stuff that kind of comes with our industry really, no matter if you're freelance or in employment, you know, dealing with clients and working in teams and things, it all comes with its own kind of challenges. So yeah, I guess it would be great maybe to kind of cover the subject, if you like, of rejection and imposter syndrome, probably to start off with. So how do you cope with rejection? Kind of, I guess it's over and over again really as a freelancer, because you're constantly having to kind of apply for new jobs.
Yeah, I think it's like anywhere in life really. I think when you first get rejected, especially when you're younger, I found it more, I took it personally, you know, I was more in my ego and what's wrong with me, and I was talk to friends and say, you know, is it me, or, you know, they're not getting back to me showing my folio, like they haven't replied. And then once you're in the industry and you go to the pub with everybody, once you're in a company, you realize that people are just so busy that they can't look at all their emails, and they just haven't seen your work. It's as simple as that. Emails get missed all the time, yet we're thinking we've opened up the email and they've all gone, what's that? And like deleted it. It's not the case. And yeah, rejection, imposter syndrome. I think if you're a nice person and you really care, everybody gets imposter syndrome. Everyone gets nerves, whatever walk of life you are, whatever job you do. And I know now it's kind of, I catch myself and I'm like, okay, like even just starting this call, I was saying to Sam, I'm getting imposter syndrome. Like, can I do this? And we're laughing. And it's just the mind telling me stories. Like, what's my mind telling me? Oh, right, it's that story. Right, okay. It's not true. It's just a story that we tell ourselves. So it's like, what happens if we let go of that story? Then I'll be free to just enjoy the experience. Well, yeah, I'm just going to let it go then. And it is a practice. And I know when I was younger, especially trying to get that first junior position, like it took me well over a year of doing placements. There's a company called Interbrand where I was there for a year as a placement. I wasn't getting paid, but I was getting free meals every day. And I ended up going to every department, and the joke within the company was I haven't worked in the kitchens yet to do all the food. That was the only thing I didn't do. I didn't get a job after that, but later on, I eventually got a junior position in a company in Essex called Popcorn Studio, where I did a placement for as well. So I fell on my feet there, and that was a year and a half of just putting myself about, and as well as knowing I wasn't as good as some of my friends who were like on it. They were full of ideas and so passionate. And I suppose because of my mental health issues, I was just like, I just want a job for now, and then I can like start designing and feel good about life, start earning money. So yeah, have I gone off on one? I don't know.
No, not at all. No, I was just thinking that resonates with me too. Like I was the same. Did placements. You don't really get paid. You get your lunches paid for maybe, but yeah, it's hard. And as you say, like I wasn't the best in my class either. So you have that imposter syndrome within your class even, and then you're thinking, gosh, they're all graduating the same time as me, and then all the other unis around the country are also graduating the same time as me, and I'm really shy and I can't do this and I can't do that and I don't know how to talk to people. So it's really, I think everybody goes through it when they're starting out especially, but I guess, like, do you have any specific kind of actionable tips, if you like, for dealing with those moments of ghosting and those silent times between jobs?
Yeah, well, it happened to me this morning, actually. I'm in a WhatsApp group of freelancers, and someone said, oh, we're looking for work next week. So I sent off my stuff and I haven't heard from them. And yeah, it's like, oh, they've looked at it and clearly, they may not have checked the emails yet. Also, it's like, okay, well, if they don't get back to me, it means I'm not right for the project. And that's fair enough. Sometimes they'll get back to you and say, we do actually like your work and we'll keep you on file. We don't think you're right. So sometimes you're actually here, and it's if they have time. It's not a personal thing. It's just they're busy and they can only contact whoever they're going to get next week. Plus they've got someone calling them about another deal and blah, blah, blah. They're just stressed. So I suppose it's thinking about the other person and not thinking that they've just got one email a day and it's yours and they've poo-pooed it. It's not the case. And look for the next thing. Start having conversations. Okay, what else is next? What can I do? Okay, I haven't got anything going on. Instead of just sitting there kind of worrying about stuff like that, maybe just go for a walk around the block, do a bit of food shopping, come back. Okay, what else can I do? And then by then I might get an email from them or a call or from someone else, or just keep on going. And it is a practice. And again, when I was younger, when I first got into freelance, that was a big worry. I kind of landed on my feet, which was good. I was at M&S for 2 weeks, and it lasted a year. And I honestly put it down to the fact that I got along with everybody. As long as you get along with everybody and you're the right fit, then that kind of takes priority. And then the design comes afterwards, because you're a trained designer and it will just sort of happen and people can help you. And what's wonderful as well, when you're speaking, Sam, about, and what we're speaking about, is also when you leave university, suddenly you're in a company with different age groups. There's people coming to the end of their career, there's people in the middle, there's people that are just before you, and you suddenly realize, oh, actually, like, everybody's just wanting to get along and get this project done, like, and you start sharing more. Whereas at uni, you're more like shielded about your ideas until it's a crit. I want to tell the tutor this idea and get some brownie points, that thing. But in a company, share everything, like, just be really open, don't be closed, and people want to see you, the real you. And that's how you fit in. People can kind of smell if you're being fake and false, and just be yourself. And again, if it doesn't work, because I've been at companies where I've been myself and it hasn't worked, it's like, okay, then that's cool. I'd rather go somewhere where I fit in and get along with people, really. So
yeah. And would you say, like, I've heard a lot recently around this topic of, like, the language that we use to ourselves, and as you were kind of saying, the way you kind of like spin it round, so you're kind of like thinking about it from another person's point of view, or focusing on the positive steps that you're making, rather than focusing on the fact that you might not have heard back yet, or it's been a long time and you're kind of worrying, like, take it that you've done a good thing and that you've actually applied for something today, or you've sent that email off today, and kind of reframing it a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, and just looking at the bigger picture, and not taking it to heart, because it's just not personal. It's just, might just be that you're not right for the project, and that's okay. Like, they'll get someone that is right for the project, or usually someone that they know. Like, if you know people in the industry, and again, it's about experience and creating those contacts, that network. People will just contact you, saying, we've got this project, like, when can you come in? Because they know you. And when that person goes to another company, they'll get you in that company because they know you, and stuff like that. And you won't go to the one they were at, and stuff like that. So that can happen. Just look at the bigger picture, and just, if you get rejected, think, okay, what's the next step?
Yeah.
And it's fine,
Yeah. So how do you view imposter syndrome now versus when you were first kind of starting?
I guess I'm very self-aware, having done, the years of experience that I have, and having done so much self-development work on myself rather. So now I can see the bigger picture. I'm a lot more calmer about things. I know I'm going to get a freelance gig soon, if not today, this afternoon. I will get more work. And especially when you talk to other freelancers, when you go into different companies, everyone has that. Everyone's like, oh yeah, when I get a week no work, I'm like, I'm never going to work again. And everybody gets it. And when I was younger, imposter syndrome, it was something I liked to pretend I didn't have. It wasn't really spoken about. This sort of chat wasn't really done when I was younger, like mental health and stuff like that, and nerves. And I mean, in my day, it was more like, well, we'll go to the pub later then, or a pub lunch. Like, if you have a pub lunch and have a pint, then I can't actually work very well in the afternoon because it goes straight to my head because I'm such a lightweight. But that was very much the culture. Like, go for a pub lunch, have a pint or two, and some of the older guys would have more drinks. You're like, how are they functioning? And like, they come in and hit the ground running. And I suppose the good thing about just going for lunch with your team or what have you, it's the barriers come down. And then you speak to people about their life and what they're up to, and then when you go back to work, you feel you can approach them as a person, not as, I don't really know how to pronounce their name, and I've got to ask them about this, or where's that photocopier, or was that printer, or I don't know, whatever comes up. So it's good to socialize. And does that answer the question? I don't know, maybe I've gone off on one again.
No, that's cool. I think, because you experience imposter syndrome throughout your career. I think it's not just when you're starting, isn't it? Really, it's something that you're constantly kind of grappling with. And it's funny, like a junior designer actually, who I interviewed for Tern, he said something really, really good, which was, thoughts are not facts. And again, that kind of story that you sort of tell yourself about your situation isn't necessarily true. And like, has anyone actually said that to you? Is there any evidence to back this up? Or is it just something your brain is just telling you out of fear?
Yeah, no, totally. And I do little tricks as well of, I might go to the loo and then take some nice deep breaths. In actual fact, it's quite cheesy, but if you stand like a superhero with your hands on your hips, if you do that for 2 minutes, taking deep breaths, it's scientifically proven to make you feel more confident.
Oh, right. Oh, the Superman pose. Yeah.
And it actually, like the whole this, like Peter Pan, but also it makes you laugh at yourself because you're like, this is ridiculous. And then you kind of, come on, let's just go out. And then you're more confident somehow. So just little tricks like that. And I know they're very basic, but they really do help.
Yeah, absolutely. Just taking that moment for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what tips would you give specifically to like emerging creatives for dealing with rejection and imposter syndrome? Is it just kind of reiterating those kind of mantras to yourself?
Yeah, again, I think it's just looking at the bigger picture. And there's a quote that I quite like is comparison is the thief of all joy. So, and I know especially today, this is a big thing with social media. We're all comparing our lives, and everybody's putting the highlights of their lives and nights out on holidays, the way they live, like the best things. And everyone's thinking, oh, my life needs to be like that, and comparing. Especially if you've got other friends getting jobs and stuff like that, especially as you're starting out. As you know, as I talked about earlier, like it took me a good year and a half just to get my first junior position. Sometimes that happens, and I had friends that within a week of being a placement, they got their junior position, they're earning money, and yeah, I did take it to heart. I was like, well, what's wrong with me then? I'm not going to make it as a designer. What else can I do? What, you know, all this spiral rabbit hole. But you will make it, and somehow there's loads of companies out there as well that you've never even heard of that you're going to get introduced to, and whether it's in-house as well, working at, I don't know, something like M&S or other retail companies. It doesn't have to be a design agency. Just go, also do your research, look at companies that you really like to work for and you like their ethics, and get in touch and praise them. Just say, look, I love what you're doing. I've just graduated. Can I come and work for you? You know, people love fans and being told that their work's great. And it's like, okay, this person actually really likes the work. They don't just want a job. You know, they actually want to come. So yeah, just keep being you, show up as you, be authentic, and it'll all happen.
I love that. Manisha Chan just said, I'm so guilty of that. Graduated 5 years ago and still not in a job I enjoy. I was told to compare myself only to myself and how far I've come. Everyone's path is different and it shouldn't be a race, but it can be frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. No, thank you for writing that, and just keep believing in yourself, and keep in touch with places and companies that you want to work for. And you know, also, especially when you're younger, if you can, don't just look at this country. Like, got a whole world out there with different cultures. Like when I freelanced in New Zealand and Australia, what I found really refreshing was that you're a creative there. So you go into a company, the project could be print, packaging, it could be something else. And you're a creative there. Whereas this country, especially England, London, you get pigeonholed as, oh, a branding designer or a packaging designer, or, you know, or this, or a visualizer or an art worker. And it's like, well, no, I want to do design. Oh no, but you're really good at artwork. And you get pigeonholed. So travel, experience the world, work at different agencies around the world, like get a working visa and do that if you want to. And again, that's entering another country. You feel like an imposter, but actually when you go, you realize that all that was holding you back was a fear of, will I be all right? And it's actually, well, yeah, I'm all right. Like there's like another level of imposter syndrome. But once you go, you're like, oh, actually it's all right. So yeah, just believe in your path. Keep going.
Yeah. And I guess onto another massive area of imposter syndrome, understanding your value. So how did you sort of start developing your freelance rates? For example, you know, were you going into it thinking, I need to have an hourly rate, or I'm going to do it project by project? Or how did you start to sort of develop that side of...
I got my first freelance gig was with M&S, and it was a recruitment agent. I went through a recruitment agent. I think it was Joe Peters, who don't do it anymore, but they're a lovely bunch, and they advised me on a rate, and I stuck with that because I didn't have a clue. Got that rate, and it was 175 a day, and I was over the moon with that. I was like, oh wow, so much more than I earn now. I managed to, it was a 2-week gig that turned into a year M&S, which is great, and I had such a laugh there. It was a really good laugh. yeah, and then I kind of just went up a little bit each year. And when I went traveling, I kind of, did the exchange rate to dollars, and again went through recruitment agents, and they advised me until, yeah, I'm a lot older now, and I kind of, yeah, you kind of compare with other people's pricing, but also what's my value? I know my value and I know my worth, and my, again, with my self-development, I know that my life is precious. So I'm going to be working 8 hours a day or what have you at an agency, and I'm not going to get those hours back. So what's that value for you? And name a price, be confident. Like I'm 350 a day, and sometimes 400 depending on the company. And when you say that with conviction and you believe it yourself, then people feel it. And also companies a lot of the time will get someone that's more of a more expensive than a cheaper freelancer, because they want the quality. Like if you were seeing, I don't know, a dentist, and one was 50 quid, one was 250 quid, you're more or less going to go with the dentist that's more expensive, right? Because they could be they could be exactly the same skill set, but it's a story of, it's a bit of a game with the industry as well. Like, oh, they must be good then, and so and go with a price that's you're comfortable with. Like if you're not comfortable charging 350 or something, and you're comfortable with, say, I don't know, 150 or 200, and that feels good with you, then people are going to sense that and accept that, and you'll get, don't go 350 and be nervous about it, because people are going to pick up on that and they won't trust you so much. So do what feels right is my advice.
Yeah. And I know that you can just quickly Google like the average kind of rates and things like that. And there are websites out there as well that you can kind of check various rates that are being charged around the country as well, to give you a bit of a guideline at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good starting point anyway. But yeah, there is a lot of imposter syndrome when you're pricing anything to do with your kind of design services, for sure.
Yeah.
So has a freelance booking ever gone wrong? And if so, how did you deal with it, and what did you learn from it?
Wow, yeah. One sticks to mind actually, when I got a freelance gig. I forget the company's name. It was down in Bath, and I think it was through a recruitment agent, and they explained that they had accommodation on site. It was like converted barns, all looked really nice. I was going to stay there for the week, so I got my food delivery all sorted. Went down. Everybody was really nice. It was really nice studios, and they started briefing me, and it was a cigarette brand, and they didn't have cigarettes on their website. And a lot of companies that have cigarettes as clients, they don't show that work on their website. So, and it goes against my ethics, because I don't believe in them. I wish they weren't around. And I had to tell them this. Like, I remember my mouth went dry, and I was just like, oh shit, what am I going to do? So after the initial briefing, I just kind of had to say, I just want to say something really sorry. Like, I'm uncomfortable working on this. I didn't know that this was the case. I'll work on anything else that you have. Like, is there any other projects? And they kind of paused, and someone went in the other room, came back and said, sorry, no, we've only got you in for this job. And then the doorbell went, and that was my food arriving, and it was it wasn't that great. And they just had to say, well, sorry, we're gonna have to get someone else. And I was like, well, it's a shame, because I really wanted to work, but fair enough. And I kind of took some food back to London, and I left some with them, like, to say sorry. And I said, it's all right if I charge like a day's work? And they said fine. And then about a week later, they said, it's all right if you charge half a week. So I thought, well, if I say a full day, they're not going to pay me, so I'm just going to have to bite the bullet. And so I suppose, always check as well with your freelance gigs, and ask what projects you're going to work on, if there's anything that you feel that you're not going to be happy working on. And there was one recently, actually, I think it was coming up to a year ago, a company in Kingston, and they'd left some work on the desk, so I worked there before, post-its on, like the top guys were away that day or something, and it looked like kind of beer labels. I was like, right, okay, you know, with my porridge from Pret in the morning, like, hi guys, blah blah blah. And then as I kind of opened it and worked on it, I kind of found out that it's a vaping company, and they were doing really nice designs, and my heart kind of sank again, and said, really sorry, you know, I'm not comfortable working on this. Have you got anything else? And it was very awkward for about 5-10 minutes. And in the meantime, I just said, I'll just make the tea. And everyone went, really? So I made a round of tea, which is very important, by the way, especially as a junior. Even if you don't drink tea, which I didn't used to, make the tea. People love that, especially in Britain. They're like, oh, they've made the tea. Let's get them in more, you know. Anyway, sidetrack. So I got given this other project, and about, I don't know, an hour into it, it was redesigning a PowerPoint presentation in InDesign, and realized it was, you know, it was a pitch for a betting company. I was like, oh no. I thought, I can't then go, sorry. So I kind of had to bite my lip with that, knowing that it was a pitch and not something that was necessarily going to be shown. So you got to pick and choose when you say sorry. And there's, trying to think, I mean, there's been gigs where on the day I'm going and they phone and cancel, and because there's no contract signed or anything like that, they don't need to pay me. So that can happen, and it's not really in the culture to get contracts signed before you turn up, like for a week's work somewhere. It's kind of done on trust, really, and it is something that's a lot of freelancers suffer from, is having that last minute cancellation because you've got nothing else planned for the week, and that can happen as well. So it's about not having to go at them, making them known that you're not happy, however, that you still like to work there. So again, it's looking at the bigger picture, and you know, people that are working there, someone that you're speaking to may work in another company in a few years, so you know, don't burn any bridges type thing. Before you call them, you can rant and rage, get it all out if you want. I sometimes do that, and then just contact them and just be firm that it's not on, but you know, get me in again type thing. So
yeah. So based on those like experiences, is that something with kind of, you know, the fact that you're sort of, I guess, an ethical designer, like the kind of projects that you don't like to work on, do you have that now on your kind of portfolio now, or for your
I have it as a sentence on the top of my CV.
Right.
I think that's why sometimes I don't hear back from people, because they've probably got something that's not very ethical. I mean, I work on like alcohol brands and stuff because I drink myself, and I kind of believe that you can't passively drink, so I'm kind of comfortable with that. So, and I know that's a grey area too, but that's just my personal preference. So so it's something I say on my CV. And you know, as I showed my work at the start, a lot of it was in the wellness industry, and I think because of that, people are latching onto that energy, that fact that I want to work for ethical companies, and that there's so much emerging now, whether it's good foods that are out, like snacks that are good for you now without any added sugar, and children's foods that are actually good for them and not full of shit. And they're the companies I want to work for. And there's, you know, you just have to go into Whole Foods and you see all these new brands and stuff. You know, I get in contact with a lot of them, and I've got some work through them. Mostly I've got ghosted, but just let them know that I'm a fan. I'd like to work for them. Here's my work. So, you know, you can do it that way. And again, I believe it's just being true to myself, because I through experience, I've worked on projects where, you know, it's, I don't know, a kid's drink or something, and it's advertised as one of your 5 a day. So mums pick them up or dads pick them up from the shelves. And I'm looking, you know, I'm doing the back of pack, and it's like full of sugar and numbers, and it just doesn't feel right to work on it. Like, and I've worked on things like Coca-Cola before, like on the design of their fridges and stuff like that at companies, and that hasn't sat well either. So I kind of found out more of what my ethics are as I've got older. And when you're younger, you're willing to work on anything because you're just after like the praise and do really good design. But it's just the journey that I've been on, and it's something that is my preference now.
Oh, okay. So I guess the next section is more around the company culture and sort of fitting in. So how do you cope with being the new guy all the time? And have you noticed a bit of a culture shift in agencies as well over the years?
Yeah. As I say, like back in the day, it used to be go to the pub at lunchtime and blah, blah, blah. Now you'll find that they might have a yoga class at lunch, depending on the size of the studio, like JKR. There's a lovely studio, it's like an Apple store, and they'll have yoga at lunch or like after hours. And it's great because people feel more of a company culture there. And every company's different. Every company's got different lingo in terms of the server. They all call it different names. Like I remember going to a company and they said, "Oh, can you take your timesheet to traffic?" And I'm like, "What's that?" And they were like, "Didn't know what traffic is." And it's like, it's just HR. And some companies might say HR, or you take your timesheet to, or whatever. Or some companies, they, naming no names, they don't let you save any work on your desktop. It's always got to be on the server, purely from bad experiences of them, freelancer leaving and then the work's not put on the server. But that can be frustrating because like taking screen grabs and stuff, it doesn't work. And in some companies it can take ages to log on, and like IT then come down and try and get you a username, and you've been briefed and it's like a half-day brief, so they want work by lunchtime, but it's like 10:30 and you're still not logged on, and the person who briefed you is in a meeting and you're like, but it just always works out somehow, because you just explain yourself and say, look, I haven't been logged on, blah, blah, blah. But back to company culture. Every company is different. There's some similar things that go on, and I find little tips to do, like remembering people's names, because I'm not very good at it. I take a pad with me, a notebook, whatever, and when I start hearing people's names around me, I'll draw a map of like a bird's eye view of where I am, and then I put people's names. So then I know them. So if I need to speak to that person, I know, oh, John, and they're like, oh, you remember my name from when you introduced, little tips like that. Because there are times where I didn't used to do that, and I can't approach someone because I don't know their name, but I would need to speak to the visualizer or get that file from them. So that delays stuff like that. What else? And just I suppose accept you're going into a different environment and it's the way it is. And also I quite like being the new boy sometimes, because there are people you haven't met before. There might be a few faces that you've seen on the freelance circuit, or someone that you work with, especially as you get older. It's like, oh, I know you. And then you go through all the companies you worked at and you're like, oh, that must be it, blah, blah, blah. Or you might know someone personally who's actually got you in, got the freelance gig, and gave them the nudge when your name came up, because they'll get your CV and failure and be like, anyone heard of Oliver Jones? And someone might go, oh, I have, someone that knows you. So always be aware, like the bigger picture, wherever you work, that person, those people might be in a different company later on down the road. So even though, I don't know, someone may trigger you, just, don't burn any bridges with anybody. But company culture, always different, always go in as yourself, dress as you, be you, and people will pick up on that, because people like people being themselves, really, and people want different people within their companies, otherwise it gets a bit stale. So and
I think you mentioned before to me as well, like, don't be too quick to sort of jump on the banter too quick.
There have been times where I've been in a good mood and people around me are having a laugh, and I'll jump in the banter, and some people are a bit wary of that, like always a bit full on straight away, like rein it in a bit, like be like, do your work, and then maybe a couple of days later you can kind of come out your shell a bit, and they go, oh, you come out your shell, and it's like, oh no, I could have carried on that in the morning when I first got here, but yeah, so that's not good. And that their companies haven't been asked back to either, where I've joined in the banter too early.
Yeah, so kind of give yourself time to sort of suss people out a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's company culture anyway. Like, in a way, yeah, I don't know. Of course, you can, whoever you resonate with, hang out with, but also there are people that are not so popular within companies, and then the office politics come in, and so just kind of be aware of that and just observe. And it's one of the reasons why I prefer freelance, actually, is because you don't get involved with that office politics. But if you find you are, just just be yourself and observe who's maybe not so positive to hang around, in a polite way without being horrible. But yeah, just kind of be aware of things like that.
Yeah. I love the idea of sketching out where people sit as well. I must admit I am really pants when it comes to remembering. I remember faces or names, but not necessarily both together. So yeah, and we actually at work we do a welcome pack for all our interns and our freelancers, and we even broaden it out to like where the printers are, where's the scanners, where's the cutting mats, all that kind of stuff, and where are the pubs nearby, where's good to go for lunch, that kind of thing. Because yeah, and I can only imagine like being freelance and having to go through that process every single time, and there's so many names, so many faces. It can get quite daunting. So I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
So what about first day nerves? How do you kind of, or are there any tips you would give to people who are getting super anxious in the run up to their first day of an internship, or maybe meeting a client for the first time, or starting a new junior role?
Yeah, I think again, it just goes back to the mindfulness of, what's my mind telling me right now? It's telling me all these things. The worst case scenarios, why my mind's doing that? Like, just literally taking some deep breaths. Get there early. It's something that I'm still trying to work on myself. I'm always running late. I always get there, but I'm always, maybe that kind of covers up my anxiety, the fact that I'm running late. Oh, sorry, blah, blah. But I make it on time, but I feel kind of out of breath and stuff. But yeah, take some deep breaths and know that you've got this. And there's reasons why they want you in, because they like your work, they like you, they like what you're about, and know that, yeah, you've got this. And there are other techniques that you can do where you kind of just tap on your collarbone, or as you take deep breaths, or there's a karate chop. Well, there is a karate chop. There's a karate chop point. There's an acupuncture point here. So if you take your writing hand, just with 3 fingers, just tap here on the other hand on the karate chop point, it's actually an acupuncture point that sends a message to your flight, or your, always get that mixed up, your fight or flight in your brain, that there's no need to worry. And just take some nice deep breaths, just tapping like that. Even if you're on the tube, it's London, no one's going to mind you being a bit weird maybe, but kind of just do it on your lap, just tap the karate chop point, taking some nice deep breaths, and that will calm you down. And just know that you've got this. I mean, before I was kind of into my self-development, I used to, I don't know, I remember in Australia, I was like the other side of the world, and I had this freelance gig, and I was so nervous walking there, and I saw this graffiti that looked quite cool. I remember looking at that, saying, I'm going to look at that at lunchtime, and the morning will be done, and I'll be a lot calmer, or the end of the day or something. So anyway, when I did the morning and stuff, and they pointed out some places where I can go and get a sandwich, and then I made an effort to go and look at that bit of graffiti. I'm like, yeah, I'm a lot calmer now. What was I worried about? I used to do like little things like that, and just know that this too shall pass. And everyone gets nervous, and again, it's cliche, but it's because you care and you want to make a good impression and do good work, and yeah, just go easy on yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think also like remembering people who work in creative industries, they're just people like us. We all kind of eat chips and drink alcohol and have late nights, and we're not scary people in suits that are just judging you all day. And
no,
we're normal, friendly people most of the time. So there's nothing to be scared about. I guess the anxiety just comes more from how you're going to portray yourself and be that day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, kind of going back to that language that you use with yourself, and
be kind to yourself, and be authentic, be yourself, and it'll be fine. It's always fine. Like I always tell myself, like every freelance job I've got, or any day that I thought I couldn't get through because I was having topics with myself, I've got through. Like, look at everything that I've been through, and it's fine. I'm here. Like, I'm still, it's all good. So little reminders like that, they always help.
yeah. Georgiana's saying, would you say as a freelancer you're expected to meet companies in person more than on Teams? I guess that whole kind of like first meet interaction.
Yeah. I mean, my experience going into agencies is, it's face to face. It's in the studio. I know things are slightly different now, where you can places are more flexible, where you can work at home and stuff, and might go in for 2 days a week or something like that. You're expected. I'd say you're still expected to go in, especially because they want you there, because a lot of the time you go in for a project that they've planned and suddenly they've got something more urgent and they can speak to you there and there. Whereas if that's the case, then they've got to contact you, call you up, do a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, and then it's about linking you to those files. So they'd rather have you there working on one of their computers, where you're connected to their server straight away and you can load the fonts, and fonts are always a big thing as well. So I'd say it's more in person, with the option to work from home if you want to. But yeah.
Okay, so I guess something we kind of touched on previously a little bit was how do you manage the pressure to succeed amongst your peers and the Instagram culture that we now all live in?
I think it's that quote I said earlier about, comparison is the thief of all joy. Run your race, do what you can do, and be true to how you resonate with the brief. Like, there's always going to be someone that's an amazing designer and doing really good stuff, and someone, I always come across designers that can illustrate as well, like really well, and have little ideas within there of no negative space within their illustrations, and I just marvel at them. And it's something I think we've spoken about in the past, Sam, is that I remember when I was a placement junior, I used to look at people's screens or finished projects and be like, how did they do all that, and just get overwhelmed. And it's not until you work in the industry that you realize it's gone through like 20 or 30 different rounds with the clients. Like, a logo has been chosen from one designer, and the pack design is an amalgamation of 3 other people's ideas coming together. And then from having meetings and crits and putting all your work out and saying, oh, if you take Sarah's work, which is really good there, and then mix it with John's, we have that. And it's like, Steve, can you make that happen? And someone else then works on it. It's all a team effort, all the projects. And you'll find your skill set and what you're good at crafting. And, you might be really good at, you might be just an illustrator as well, and people get you in for that. You might be more interested in typography, and then people get you more in for that. And everybody's got their expertise, and you're just as valuable as the designers that are all rounders as well, and you think are just amazing and you can never live up to. And just be authentic with your design as well as your life and who you are.
And what would you say anxiety feels like, and how can you battle it during an interview, for example? So you're kind of there face to face with someone and you feel that anxiety kind of creeping in. Have you got tips for dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's in my tummy, like the nerves, and it's something one of my mentors said to me is, I forget how she put it, but Feeling nerves, feeling anxious is just excitement. What if you change the name to I'm excited? Just little things like that. So, yeah, it's like it kind of feels excitement, because when you feel excited, it's the same thing, but you're more positive. And also, I suppose before doing that is not pushing it away, not wishing it away. It's really important to accept it. Like, just literally go into acceptance. Okay, I'm feeling this right now. Like, own it, lean into it, sit in it. I'm feeling anxious. I accept it. I used to try and push it away when I was younger, and ignore it and just like, oh yeah. And I remember I had a panic attack while I was being introduced to people around the office when I first arrived. I don't know how I did it. I did it, and I was trying to ignore it. However, I know if I accepted it and maybe just gone into the loo and said, I'll just pop to the loo and then I'll come out. Accept how you're feeling, accept the nerves, accept that you care, accept that you care about what people think about you. Why not? So many people say, oh, I don't care what people think. I think everybody does. I do. I wish I didn't, but I do. And I accept that. So accept always how you're feeling. And also accept, I don't have any nerves. What's wrong with me? Like, I actually feel good. Like, accept that as well. And accept that your mind's even questioning the fact that you feel good. So just go into acceptance, and it will slowly dilute even quicker than resisting and trying to fight it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
And you had, just while I remember, you mentioned something about trying to like buy yourself some time as well. If they ask you a question and you don't quite know how to answer, or if you suddenly get like a wave of, and you need a minute basically. And you said, I think it was, that was an interesting question. You sort of have a little think.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's good to take a pause. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking a pause and just saying, let me just have a think about that. And although you think, oh, the silence in between you saying that and giving an answer may seem really long, but it's really not. And people will respect that, because you're not just giving something that you've heard a creative director say about 6 months ago. You're not giving a quick answer. You're saying, also when you look at creative directors and stuff, they just go, okay, let's have a look here. And then they're so comfortable with just taking it all in. Yeah. And then they speak, and take a deep breath. Why not? Take a deep breath and, okay, let me compose myself. Let me have a think. And then something will always come, You don't have to be straight with the answer straight away. And also, there's nothing wrong with saying, actually, I'm a bit confused. Like, nothing's come into my mind. And then someone was like, oh, so glad you said that. Like, I'm totally confused. And then the person briefing by like, oh, well, I'll phrase it in a different way. Because sometimes when you get briefed, it's not the full picture. They'll miss something out. Just no fault of their own, just because they're busy and blah, blah, blah. So don't be afraid to say, actually, I don't know where to go next. Like, I need some help. I've got this far. And then people will help you as well, instead of pretending the answers and, bullshitting, basically. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I think there's some great advice in there. I think I will definitely be trying out the Superman pose for sure. I had a panic attack when I was doing one of my first workshops with Tern heads, and that was on Teams. So I wasn't even like in a room with people. I couldn't see who I was even talking to, but just the knowledge that there was lots of people staring at me on their screens was enough to kind of make me feel a bit wobbly. And yeah, I'd say breathing and rolling your shoulders back definitely helps. And yeah, I got pushed through it. But yeah, and it does kind of come on very quickly, doesn't it? It sort of surprises you, and you might be thinking, I know I did, like, why am I feeling nervous about this? This has come out of nowhere. What's happening? And I think that's quite hard to deal with in the beginning as well, because it literally just comes on for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
But as you say, just talking to yourself like everything's fine, like you're just excited, it's just adrenaline.
Yeah.
through it.
And yeah, accept. Don't push it away. I used to push it away, and I suffered from them for years, like sometimes one a day type thing. So I know what it's like to be at rock bottom, and you will. It's like, I was thinking about this today. It's like, you know, when you cut your skin, you got a cut. You don't know how, but your skin sorts itself out. It rejuvenates. It heals. And it's the same with depression, mental health issues, panic attacks. Your body will come back into alignment. Just be kind to yourself, nourish yourself, and do what's best for you in those moments, and know that this too shall pass. If you're at work and you've got work to do and you're having a panic attack, this too shall pass, and there will, you know, there are better days to come. And a lot of people won't even know because they might be nervous themselves, you know, and there's always someone within a company that you resonate with that you can talk to. I've always found, and they've, funny enough, have had issues themselves, and be like, you know, you're right, because I get them. And it's like you've just opened up, and so I didn't know that you sometimes have panic attacks. So just talk to whoever that you feel drawn to and trust, and yeah, just be kind to yourself and accept everything.
Yeah. Now, Andrea's just asked, I love your honesty, Ollie. How do you think we can foster more empathy in our industry?
I think by having conversations like this, being authentic, like, and ask those questions, Andrea, with wherever you are. You know, why not go to HR and say this? You know, I'm passionate about this. I want more empathy. I want more understanding. I don't like it if you know, because I know for myself that I've been bullied by what's the term, like company directors and stuff, and art directors that, yeah, back in the day it was a bit more old school, but they were like bullies, and I felt scared to show my work, like frightened, take deep breaths, and like, what they're going to say about this, and yeah, talk about it, share it within the company. And if you freelance on your own, like, and in my case as well, is the more empathy that you show, then people kind of get a green light to have that as well, and be an example of that. And especially if you know, a middleweight or a senior, and you're speaking to someone, a placement or a junior who's nervous, just set the example and be yourself and talk about it, celebrate it. Whether even on social media, why not hashtag empathy, you know? Get it out there, and keep asking these questions and having these conversations. And the more you do that, the more it has a ripple effect with everyone, and it will be a thing. Suddenly everyone's doing hashtag empathy, you know? Why not?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, as Andrew's just said, agrees. Talk a lot more about the uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah, because it's real, right?
That's the thing, and that's what I started Turnheads for, in some ways, to try and like demystify all of this stuff, because I think there is that pretentious facade a lot of the time with the design industry, and everyone's kind of very competitive and treads on each other and all the rest of it, and it's just not the case at all in a lot of instances. And you know, everyone struggles in different ways, and everyone's had different paths into where they are now, and gone through different things and overcome different things. And I think the more that people talk about it and share their experiences, the better, really. So Beverly's saying, this has been really useful, thank you. I'm going to put some welcome packs together for new starters at work to help them feel welcome from the beginning. Hey.
That's Beverly, nice one. Cool.
It also buys you some time as well, so that you can get stuff sorted to sort of hand them a project as well, I find, especially
hopefully. And it's make sure their desk is clean as well. Has just come to mind, because sometimes I go to a freelance gig and it like the tray from last Friday's tea is still there, and you're like, oh yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry. And it does kind of make you feel a bit oh, do I feel welcome or not? So
That's very true. Yeah, actually, when I was on placement, I remember starting there was like a keyboard but no mouse or something.
yeah, I
Like
know it's always
someone
someone.
just pinched it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you're freelancing, you do get the slow Mac. That's just the way it goes.
Our Sundar is saying, when I started to search for a job as a 3D artist for the first time, most of the companies rejected. But after that, I got in 2 companies for low pay as a 3D artist. This happened in India 1 year ago, but now I don't know how it's been going in London. I'm doing my master's in animation, but confused a lot when I get rejected in every company I apply for. Yeah, I think that is the unfortunately the experience of a lot of people, that the creative industries are just so competitive. I think as well that something that's not talked about enough is also timing and luck. Like you can be such a great designer and someone who gets along with everybody, but I know even like from people who apply to us at work, like it might just be that there's not enough work in at the moment, so you get put on a list until things pick up maybe, but it's one of those things that you should keep applying to the same place again and again and again as well. Don't just do it once and then think, oh, they didn't get back to me, so I won't bother again. Like just keep going, because a lot of it is down to timing and just the luck involved in that.
Yeah, yeah. As I spoke about earlier, like people are just really busy and they haven't looked at their emails properly. And I mean, there have been occasions where I have emailed companies and saying, you know, could I get any feedback? Like, you know, if you think my work's not that good, you know, let me know. Let me know what you think. And I rarely get a response, but sometimes I do, and it's quite refreshing why they haven't looked at my or got back to me and said what they really think. And you know, it could be down to the fact that they've literally looked at my folio, and a lot of the time in companies, people that are getting freelancers in, they're not creatives. So if they want a designer to come in to, I don't know, do a logo for a car brand, for instance, and you haven't got that in the folio, they think you can't do it. So they'll go with someone that has something similar or a car brand within their folio. And, oh, this person can do it. They're not, so they kind of got blinkers on. So you get pigeonholed even more. So you don't know who's making the decisions to get you in or not, because the creative directors and senior designers and stuff, they're busy. They may not look at your work unless it's a smaller company. I tend to get more success with smaller companies because the people that own it are the designers there, and they'll look at your CV and folio. So yeah, you never know who's on the other end.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, please don't take it to heart. I know it's very easy to say that, but yeah, there's so many factors involved. So please don't feel like a failure if you don't hear back, because there's just so many factors involved, and just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Okay, I think it was 12 minutes past now, so probably should let you go, Ollie. Thank you so much.
Conversation.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really hope you've taken some things away from this, because it is a really important topic for sure. So I hope you found it insightful and found some things that might help you out with your kind of journeys into the industry. And if you would like to find out more about life coaching or some guided meditation sessions, do head over to Ollie's website. It's oliverwilliamjones.com. I've put it in the chat. And yeah, do check his website out for a bit more if you want some help one-to-one with him on that. So yeah, again, if you found this helpful, please do support the Turnheads platform by spreading the word for us, tell your friends about us, and do sign up to the mailing list as well if you want to get alerts for some more of these events that we'll be doing. Thank you so much, Ollie, for giving up your time tonight to share your story too, and all the tips and everything. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me on. And I think what you're doing is really amazing with Turn Heads, and it's very inspiring, and it's kind of given me a boost to get more out there with coaching and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone that's turned up, and thank you once again, Sam. It's been great.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody, and we wish you all the best in your careers. Do keep in touch, and we'll see you at the next one.